1968 was one of the most hectic years in American history, and the 1968 election is one of the reasons why. The Republican nominee was Richard Nixon, while the Democratic nominee was Hubert Humphrey, the vice president to the previous president, Lyndon Johnson. Robert Kennedy was running for president on the Democratic side, but was tragically assassinated in June of 1968. Kennedy was very popular amongst Democrats. Eugene McCarthy was popular in the beginning of the election process, running on an anti-Vietnam War campaign. The Vietnam War was the main factor in the election, as there were protests happening all over the country during the time. There were many protests during the Democratic Convention of 1968, taking place in Chicago.
For Democrats, the Chicago Convention of 1968 was a nightmare. Meeting after the assassinations of Martin Luther King and Robert Kennedy, Democrats fell into chaos, fighting Chicago police and each other.
With George McGovern as President of the United States, we wouldn't have to have Gestapo tactics in the streets of Chicago.
Mr. Daley is not pleased with Senator Ribicoff.
How hard it is to accept the truth.
Vice President Hubert Humphrey, hobbled by the unpopularity of President Johnson and his Vietnam War policies, appealed for order.
Surely we have now learned the lesson that violence breeds counter-violence, and it cannot be condoned, whatever the source.
It didn't work. Humphrey's November defeat ushered in the era of Republican presidential dominance, with 7 GOP victories in the last 10 elections.
Nixon was able to win the election in part because of his commitment to end the war. He was not completely successful in his promise, as the war didn't end until 1975. Many Americans hoped for change in the year 1968 and became frustrated when Nixon did not provide it.